Hello and welcome to Missed Checkpoints, the video game book club podcast. Today we're wrapping up our discussion of Psychonauts. I'm your host Marcus, and joining me today as always are the homies. First off, we got Greg.
What's up?
Next we got Trevor.
What's going on?
And last but not least, we got the homie Dante.
Meh.
Meh. Is that a way to start off this conclusion of this game?
Grand opening, grand closing.
Alright, well we're gonna wrap up this discussion of Psychonauts. So where we left off was, I believe, right after the fish boss, the lungfish boss. So I think we picked back up on the lungfish level, I guess. And what did you like this level, Dante? You were the most from my understanding, there was nothing about this game that you liked, according to the last episode. And I know your overall feelings of this game, but is there anything redeeming about the lungfish level? Did you like anything about it?
Honestly, I don't even remember enough about it to really critique it at this point.
Jeez.
Describe the level for me. That'll be a good intro.
That's so sad. It's the level where you're big and you're like, it's like the Rampage-esque level. So you're like big.
Okay. I remember this because when you said lungfish, I assumed it was underwater, but now I know you're talking about like the level where the tanks were shooting at you and you have to scale some buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This, oh man, I'm trying to find something positive to say.
Oh my god! All right,
it was kind of fun using the shield.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that is the first
the level you
shield.
Yeah.
You didn't think the boss fight was cool or anything? That's where you fight Coach Oleander? Okay, well, never mind. I have to remind you. You're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's where you fight the superhero Coach Oleander, and it relies heavily on using the shield.
I remember there being a couple phases to the boss. Like, not even phases, but hey, he did have more than one attack.
I feel every boss had more than one attack in this game.
This I don't know if you remember, Dante, but this boss battle, the boss like kind of announced his attacks like while he was doing them. I don't know if you remember that.
Okay.
It was very anime-ish, or
he does it. You know what? I'm not even going to fault it for that.
So when it's all said and done, your loyalty to anime is greater than your loyalty to Psychonauts.
I'm not going to say that this.
That's
game
the
is
legacy
anime.
you want to leave.
It was decent that they called out the attacks and gave you a second to react to them.
Okay,
despite
we got
the delivery
something
on those lines being a little bad.
We got something. I'm here for that. What about you two, Dante? Or excuse me, Greg and Trevor? What do you guys think about the lungfish level?
I liked it. I think it was probably the best level up to that point. I think thought the writing for like the fishes was pretty good. I mean the combat's still kind of whatever, but I appreciated the design of the level, and the boss fight was pretty good.
Trevor?
this is another part of the game where I like the concept, but some things just didn't work. And like this level was kind of annoying to me. Like, I like the idea that they introduced the shield on this level because it was necessary for a lot of the attacks. But it just became annoying at some points. Like, sometimes it was very difficult to discern like where the tanks were when they were attacking you, and that made it even more annoying. And then like they would just there would be a very short cutscene. They put like random cutscenes throughout this level, and at the end of each cutscene, it was like the tanks would just spawn. Like they were spawning during the cutscene, And so once the cutscene ended, the tanks were already on the map, and you didn't know where they were coming from or how many there were. And so that kind of made the enemy encounters more annoying. I also didn't like the climbing in this game, or on this level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of whack, but it didn't really. I guess it didn't really kill it for me.
Well, more specifically, like when you're fighting the helicopters, because I think that's where it's more important. Because the earlier parts of this level, it's mainly just for collecting stuff. You don't really have to climb, but the part where you're fighting the helicopters and they're like dropping bombs or on you, and you have to swat them down. That's where it gets annoying.
I'll agree with that. Like the thing I didn't like about this level was how slow it took for you to get around, specifically because climbing was so slow, and I was using the levitate ability, rolling on the ball whenever I could, like in the main world or in levels, and levels that I couldn't, and this was one of the few levels, this is the only level I think that you can't do that, and I couldn't get around as quickly as I wanted to, and that was kind of a bummer. And climbing the buildings, was the animation to do that was kind of slow. It really wasn't a factor until the end, like you said, with the super tall buildings when you had to fight. They were airplanes or helicopters. But the one thing I do like about the level, and maybe more so the game, because I was leveling up a lot because I was doing a lot of the collectibles and stuff. So I may have been a little bit higher level than you guys. But it really became apparent how powerful or how cool it was to be able, like, you didn't get to choose, but you get to upgrade the abilities. So at this point, I had unlocked the ability that when you shoot something with your fireball, it would auto hit 2 other enemies near it. So fighting those fighting those airplanes was super trivial, and I like that because every time I got hit by them, I ended up falling off the building and having to climb back up. So, like, even though I had that upgrade ability, that was still happening. So I'm just grateful that I didn't have to climb up, 7 or 8 times in order to hit all 7 or 8 of them. I only had to climb up 3 times, and I took out 3 every time I got up to the top. So, I don't know, it made me really appreciate the upgrade. Like, I was kind of lukewarm on, or I guess we didn't really even talk about the upgrades and how, like, that system was in this game. But just, that was one of the few times in this game where I was like, oh, I'm glad that there's a noticeable difference in the upgraded version of the Fireball versus the base level version of it. I didn't really feel that with every ability, but there was a noticeable one with the Fireball one.
Yeah, there kind of is with the ball. Like when you're rolling around on it, it'll damage enemies.
The Wrecking Ball ability?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one and the invisibility. The invisibility ability, I guess you could say, the length of time that you are in invisibility doubles. And that is really also very helpful.
See,
so that, what?
I think they waited too late to introduce, and we can talk about it a little bit more later once we get to that part of the game, but I think they introduced some abilities too late in the game. Or maybe it was just because I was unlocking abilities out of order. Like, I think I mentioned on the last episode where there was one instance where I went to, what's the guy's name? Cruller?
Agent Cruller?
Yeah, where I went to him and all of a sudden I was unlocking, 3 merit badges.
Sure.
But it was, there were abilities like invisibility where it felt like I wish I had it sooner so that I would have been able to incorporate it in my playstyle. Because once I got to where I actually needed to use the ability, I didn't have it. And so I went and got it, and I only used it for that particular level. I never used it again because I'd just gotten so used to not using it at all.
I mean, there was definitely abilities that I didn't use, like the pyro, not the fireball one, but the other one.
Pyrokinesis?
Yeah, I never used that ability, except for in the puzzles where you had to use it, because it was just like, why do I want to stand still and let this gauge build up before you get on fire when I can either swing on you or just shoot a fireball really quickly.
I think they didn't really mean for pyrokinesis to really be used like that. It's just only, like, I guess it seems like it's only just for the puzzles for the most part.
I mean, yes, but there was, I don't know if there was a couple of enemies that did take like bonus damage or extra damage using that ability versus the fireball one. But I mean, even still, like I like Trevor was saying, I didn't really use levitate either. I'm sorry, not levitate. What's the one you get to pick things up and throw it?
Isn't
telekinesis?
Telekinesis.
Yeah, telekinesis. Yeah.
I hardly ever used telekinesis. I almost always had shield, fireball, and levitate. Those were like my main three that I rolled around with all the time. And sometimes I'd swap over to invisibility, but for the most part, those are the 4 powers I used.
Did you choose not to use it, or did the game just not give you the option to use it? Because I feel like a lot of those abilities you couldn't use on a lot of stuff.
You could use, like, levitate was a legitimate attack. You could use it as an attack.
Yeah, in telekinesis, when they introduce it and you go through that tutorial, they make it seem like it's going to be like a game changer when it comes to combat. Like the way they go through the tutorial, because there's like 3 different phases where you have to toss something at an enemy and toss it through a hoop.
I think it only comes into play with like some of the bomb enemies later on in the game, and even then you don't even have to use it. But it's mostly it's kind of relegated to only boss fights towards the end.
Yeah, it's just like thinking about it now, like what you have, like maybe 8 or 9 abilities in total, and it seemed like maybe 2 or 3 of them weren't even useful for combat. It was like, oh, like the one where you get to see from their perspective. That I don't know what that one is called.
Clairvoyance, I think.
Yeah, like that was only useful on that one. At least for me, I only used it on that level. I never used it after that.
Yeah, that's the only time I ever used
it. And it would have made more sense to just like give you that ability, your character that ability, instead of like having it something mappable that wastes a slot in quote unquote combat. Just like, oh, if you click in the thumbstick or something, you get to use that ability or something like that, you know?
What I think maybe, and this is just kind of like what I think is maybe they had maybe the game was designed in a way where that came into play more, but then maybe they had to dial it back for whatever reason, possibly. I mean,
I could believe that just how long as this game took to make and everything.
Yeah.
You finish up the lung. I think it's called. I got the walkthrough up now. It's called Lungfishopolis, and the next world you get into is the Milkman level. And at this point, when I hit this level, I was like, "You guys are wrong." Like, this level is so good.
Wait a minute.
This level, like...
This is where you're gonna freaking die? This is your hill? This is your hill?
Like, dude, like, this level is so good to me. Because, like, last time Dante specifically said, this game is basically Captain Underpants, like, humor level writing. And I was like... Okay, I can see that, you know, when that first half of the game we played, but when we played that lungfish level, I was like, oh, like, some of this is, like, it reminded me of SpongeBob and, like, kind of how the fodder enemy, like, the My Leg guy and kind of some of that humor, and when I played this level, I was like, basically the gist of this level is there's this conspiracy going on, and all these guys, these G-men, are blending in, doing these specific occupations, and the only way to get around them is to have the same, whatever occupation they're doing, you have to have some type of tool or equipment or something to get around them. So there's a guy that's a traffic guard, so you need to have a stop sign in your hand to walk by him, and then there's like plumbers, so you have a plunger when you walk by them, and then there's like bakers, so you have a rolling pin.
I was just assuming the items were very bad disguises.
I mean, they are bad disguises, but like they're G-men and they're trying to fit in with their surroundings. So like because their disguises are so bad, you can get away with also having a bad disguise. And like just these guys, they're like. I wish could write down some of. I didn't write down any of the lines, but like the way what they were saying to like blend in, they were just like. It was so funny to me, and like once I got to this level and I saw the writing really sold me on this level, and then it was this was another level. I mentioned it in the last level, but nobody really talked about it. But the way they do the perspective shifting in this level, like it's like MC Escher-esque, and I know that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody but Trevor, but like being able to jump from a 2D plane onto the wall and now you're back on the 2D plane, and like being able to seamlessly go between, I mean, you do it 2 or 3 times, but I thought it was really cool, and I liked how they built the world like that. They could have done it as just one flat world like they had, like most people do, but the fact that they did that for this level was really cool to me. And basically I liked almost every single world that we played, from even going back to the first part we played, from going the female Psychonauts level, I can't remember her name, the disco. Mia. From then on, every world was hit after hit after hit for me. Like, straight up. Every single world. So it's like mind-boggling to me that you guys did not... I'm not saying... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, after all the hurtful things I've said to you, nothing hurt you as much as you, you freaking saying that I don't know who MC Escher is. Are you serious?
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad you know who MC Escher is. And I'm like... it was a really cool trick to me, and it was very effective in this Milkman level. And just the fact that they did it on this level, like, it doesn't really...
Wait, how does this have anything to do with MC Escher, though?
Just, what do you mean?
Bro, he did, like, the optical illusion type of stuff. There was nothing optical or illusory about any of this.
You didn't see the staircase painting he's done? We have the staircase.
Yeah, it's the one that's, like, it's to make you think that it's, like, infinite, right?
Yeah, and like...
There was nothing like that here.
Being able to jump from one section of a neighborhood to another?
Bro, that's platforming, man. That's one island to the next.
No, I understand what you're saying, Marcus. Like, he's talking more so...
I kind of get it with the twist. I guess some of the, like, streets do twist a little bit.
That you literally have to jump on like a wall in order to, like, it's literally like almost 90 degrees, and to get to it you have to jump on it. And it's super cool because when you're running up to it, you're like, when you get up close to it, it just looks like a gray wall. When you zoom out, you can see like houses and stuff, and I'm just thinking, like, how do I get over there? And you have to jump over to get onto it, and then the plane, like, your plane switches and you're on it now.
You know how we always say, like, man, it's almost like we're playing a different game. This just solidifies it, because I never got any of that.
It goes both ways. That's all I'm gonna say, because I felt the same exact way when you were like, man, like when you played this game and you were like, man, like, I don't really know, like, y'all ain't gonna like this. And when I started playing it, I was like, oh, Dante said this game is kind of whatever, it's kind of whack. So I'm like, kind of went in there really skeptical. Leaving the first part where we were at, I was like, I can see some things, but I'm kind of iffy. When I played this level, I was all in, and I'm all in still. That's all I gotta say. I freaking love this game. Like, everything. Like,
so let me go on ahead and this level right here is where, or actually, like, after you finish Lungfishopolis and go into this one, this is exactly where I was hoping this game would go. Where, like, you're going into people's minds and kind of, like, the gameplay is kind of compartmentalized depending on whose mind you're in. That was the that was the idea I got from this game playing like the what's the first guy's name?
Coach Oleander?
Yeah, Coach
Agent
Oleander.
Sasha 9 or Coach Oleander?
Yeah, well, all of them. Like when you go into their minds and it shows you that, they kind of tutorialized those sections. But I was really hoping they would delve more into, hopping into other people's minds and you would see kind of like their subconscious, or at least a what do you call it? A more physical manifestation of their subconscious, and you would be able to like play through that, and it would be kind of different through each one. And so that's where this game started going, and this is where I started digging it on this level. So I'm right there with you, Marcus.
Good.
Wait.
Like after Lungfishopolis.
Yeah, it's like after the first half of the game is just kind of like the weird summer camp thing, and it's like the second half just ditches that completely, which I'm kind of cool with, because I think it makes the game a little bit stronger, like as a narrative as a whole.
I think the levels got more creative. I think the gameplay, which was already not good, just plummets at this point.
I don't feel like the gameplay is any different. Like, and if we're being honest, like, what is different about the second half of the game as far as gameplay?
None of the platforming in Milkman was good. Not only that,
There was hardly any platforming
fetch
to
quests.
do. There was no, like, I mean, that's, you already said in the first section of this game there was hardly any platforming. So saying that, okay, there's less platforming, but that was, we kind of already said
But
that
at least there was something to do. This was just like, hey, let me go to these random houses, try to find an item, try to remember where the guy that is weak to this item is, and then use it to just do the same thing over and over and over again. That's not good gameplay, in my opinion.
I mean, you're not wrong, but at this point, we've played so many levels, or I shouldn't say so many levels, we played through enough of the levels that we know what the gameplay is, and if you're going to sit here and tell me that the writing does not get better in the second half of the game, you are deluded. Because the whole kitty, like, that stuff was whack, and I agree with you 100%, but if you're going to say, and I know you have a low tolerance for witty commentary or banter or whatever, but if you want to tell me that the second half of this game the writing doesn't get better, you are crazy.
Oh man, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at if you dislike witty commentary and humor. It's good.
I mean,
it was just the way you said it. But
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Because like the writing. Go ahead.
Maybe some of the writing was more subtle than I cared for at this point, where like it wasn't in cutscenes per se, and I probably just didn't pick it up. But I'd never noticed like that tonal shift that you're talking about.
I mean, yeah, so like in the lungfish level, I thought it was super clever that they show it as like you meet these two lungfish guys and they're trying to tell you like, oh yeah, like we want you to save us from the suppressor, and then you come to find out that they're actually like escaped prisoners and you just help them escape prison. I thought that was like super funny. And like just like super like you're trying to be this good guy and they get this like really innocent kid to help them escape prison. I thought that was cool. And then in this milk, like I said, I don't really have, at least at this point, I haven't written down any quotes that I saw, but just the way these G-men are trying to blend in and be
fellow road crew worker.
Exactly. A pie crust is, one to one butter to flour or what, and like just the way they were talking was really funny. And then, like, don't get me wrong, like there are still very annoying characters, but once they take the kids out of the equation, I feel like writing for the kids in the first half kind of helped, like.
They needed to set a low bar for the
No. I'm trying to say, like, it's like if you didn't live that experience, it's kind of hard to write for it. But I'm not saying like these people that wrote this game were never kids, but it just doesn't seem as like it's an adult trying to imagine how kids talk versus it being natural. Like, this is how kids sound. It's like, no, this is what adults think kids talk like, and this is how adults think kids' voices sound, and like how nasally.
Hello, fellow camper.
Yeah, sure. But when it comes to writing, like I think the Milkman is kind of annoying too. But like the G-Men were hilarious. The Lungfish characters were hilarious to me. I mean, even later on, like what some of the people talk about and just some of the dialogue is just like, it's really good. And I feel like it's even more impressive because they show their range in being able to make these references and jokes with these characters that have like different occupations, or, you know, like there's a way more diverse cast of characters, if you will. You're not the same, you know, 5 to 12 characters. This is like, this character is only on this level, so like the dialogue has to be hitting, in my opinion, for you to want to keep continuing with this game. And I feel like they really hit that, and they do a good job in the second half of the game. I don't know if that makes any more sense. Like, this is the only impression you're going to get of this character, so they have to have a lasting impression. And I feel like a lot of these second half of the game, these characters do have a lasting impression on me.
That's fair.
So before we move on from this level, I do want to go on ahead and add that this level is very reminiscent of like Rocko's Modern Life.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if any of y'all watched that show.
I mean, like, I feel like this game it's low-key kind of an ode to, like, cartoons that we either grew up with or we've watched.
Yeah.
Because, like, I do feel like the Lungfish level is very, like I said, I got heavy SpongeBob vibes, and I know that's maybe a little bit because, you know, these are fish, but I had that vibe, and I definitely had the Rocko's Modern Life vibe with the Milkman level,
and
I had like
monsters.
All Real Monsters with the theater level, and right.
I didn't pick up on that, but
like
since now, when you say
like I had so many like so it's really weird for me that like it's not even like nostalgia, but it's just like it hits those notes that make me think of these things, and maybe that's why I'm maybe looking a little bit more positively on this game than you guys are. But like, it was hitting for me, like all of it. Like I said, I don't think this game is platform heavy or like at all, like Dante said. I don't think that this game is, the combat is whatever. But it was like the world and like the creativity that the developers put into this game that had me like salivating for more. Where I was like, yo, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think it just speaks highly to like how strong like the writing and the like story and the setting is, that like it plays like a 4 or 5 out of 10, but like you still want to keep going through it just because
4 or 5, good God.
Yeah,
that's a little high in my book, but
like it definitely mechanically it's kind of,
that was a sneak diss.
It was, right?
but I mean,
he's not wrong.
Nah.
I mean,
are you saying a 4 or 5 out of 10? Like, all right, now 4 or 5 out of 10.
Back then,
2005.
No, it probably would have been acceptable back then. Like, but it might have been like a 7 out of 10 back then. But like now,
I think this is one of those games where like the gameplay was probably. I know Dante's gonna put on his hat and say, I play a lot of games that came out around that time, and you very well may have, dude, but like this game, I feel like the writing and like the creativity in this game, I feel like it's like damn near like, I don't want to say timeless, but it aged really well. I will say the gameplay and all that stuff, it's kind of whatever, but like the story, not even the story, but just like the environments you're in is I love it. I'm just, oh man, it hurts, man. I know I'm hurting you. You hurting me too. And I just want you to know. Do we need to say anything else about the Milkman level, the neighborhood?
This was one of those levels I was mentioning earlier about like when you have to use telekinesis.
Uh-huh.
And it's that. Actually, was that the boss, or it was like one of those mini bosses where you fall into the pit?
Yeah, the little a little sand monster or
Yeah.
lava monster. Yeah, yeah. The boss on this level was the Den Mother, and where you had to where she turned off the lights. And actually, this is like the only fight that you use clairvoyance, where she turned off the lights and she was standing on the 4 platforms, and you had to like dodge her things and use the telekinesis or whatever to throw the items at her. This fight was okay too. Like I like that's another thing too, where we were talking about combat being whatever. I felt like I enjoyed damn near every boss fight in this game, even going through the second half of the game.
I'm trying to think if there was any fights at the end that I didn't like, but I can't really.
I think the
of
boss
anything.
fights in this game are exceptionally strong. Like, I mean, for the type of game this is, especially if we're saying like, yo, the combat in this game sucks, but the boss fights are awesome to me. And then the next level is like basically you can kind of choose your own adventure at this point. There's like 3 different characters you can hop into the mind of, and I guess we can just choose one. Anybody got one they want to choose first?
Guess we could do. I mean, I guess the next one I did was Glorious Theater. That one, but
Okay, we can talk that one then. Glorious Theater. You're basically at an insane asylum, or broke. Excuse me. Yeah, it was an insane asylum, but it was like one that was no longer operational because you're trying to track down the main game's antagonist, and there's these 3 really 2, 3, 4 psych ward, 3 psych ward patients and a warden figure, and you got to hop into their minds to progress further into the story. So with the Glorious Theater, what did you think about Glorious Theater, Greg?
I liked it. I thought Gloria's Muse was like probably one of the kind of the funnier parts of it. I guess it was kind of interesting how you had to switch the moods up on the scenes as like part of a puzzle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have, since you're at a theater, there's
Careful with
different
that word.
scenes. Huh?
Be careful with that word.
Yeah, so you basically have to collect different scripts and also switch the scenes out in the mood to basically get to this point where you can fight a boss. I guess it's me kind of oversimplifying it, but I did like it though. I mean, there's not a ton of combat. I guess there's a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed it.
What did you think about it, Trevor?
It was okay. Like I said,
When you say it, I guess because the way the levels are, like, can you maybe clarify what the it is?
Gloria's theater altogether
Okay.
was just okay. Like I said before, I'm still invested in this concept. And like the quest that they give you, where you're basically in this psych ward, and each of the patients that you talk to, like your quest is to what is it, to calm Gloria down or something like that.
Yeah. You're
then-
trying to calm her down so you can get a item from her in order to progress through the story.
And so each of these people has like an underlying crux that you have to help fix in their minds in order to progress in the story, and I think that's pretty cool.
So you like the part that you're a problem solver?
Yeah, but
And
the Glorious Theater on its own, like just as a level, it wasn't my favorite. I mean,
Sure.
It was cool. It seemed kind of short, especially compared to like the Milkman Conspiracy.
Yeah, I think this was definitely one of the shortest levels in the game.
You do get some interesting bits about the characters as you go through their through these worlds, because you kind of see why they feel the way they do, which I guess I kind of appreciated that.
It's like
yeah,
gives
those little picture things that you find.
Yeah, some interesting backstory on these characters. What about you, Dante?
So, this was the one where you had to get the scripts, right?
Yeah, that was one of the things you had to do. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to piece it all together. I don't really have too much to add per se. I didn't think it was the worst thing, for sure. But at the same time, it wasn't what I'd call compelling.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting, at least seeing like the plays being acted out, even though I got annoyed since you couldn't skip them even after you saw them once, if I recall. But
I'm gonna say you recalled incorrectly, because you could, like, once you saw it once, you didn't have to see it again. At least in my experience.
okay, that's fair.
Well, I dug this level a lot just because I thought that it was really funny / cute to see these little kids act out these plays, and kind of like what Greg said, you could hit the stereotypical, like the laughter and the crying mask in order to change the mood of the play. So they would enact the play with the happy setting and happy tone, and then if you hit it, then they would have a no wardrobe change, but they'd have a setting change, and then they would enact the lines in a sad way. And it was cool because it was basically the story of this woman, Gloria, and it was her life story and her upcoming as a basically getting sent away, because she's like supposedly has this tragic background where she was like banished by her parents to this school where she was like forced to learn the entertainment biz, you know, like dancing and acting and singing and all that. And then, like, it's really funny to hear the kids' tones change when they're talking about, in one aspect, it's like, you know, I got sent away, but my parents still really love me. And then in the other, when it's the negative, it's like, I got sent away because my parents were jealous of my talent. And, like, just some of the subtle line switches and not so subtle line switches was very funny to me. And it started to get really interesting. There's this, overall in this stage, there's this, what's the guy's name? There's a critic that's been, like, hating on this actress, Gloria, this entire time. And there's this villain, what do they call it?
Phantom?
The Phantom, who's been sabotaging the plays and causing these bad things to happen. And so, like, the only way to get up to him is to have this certain thing happen in the plays. So then what that introduces, you have to start finding these scripts that you present to the director of the plays, and then once you present it, then it adds on another section to the plays. Then you can see the play with this new thing, like a knight comes to slay the dragon, or this boat comes to deliver a letter to Gloria, or whatever happens. And that I thought that was really cool / interesting, because even when you try to do it in a scene where you can't, like, and then the boat came, and then you're on a scene that has no water, you can kind of see, like, how it would be in real life, where the kids are like, where's the boat? And they're kind of whispering it under their breath, trying to see, like, hey, you know, come on, proceed with the scene. And then the kid in the background's like, there is no boat, just keep going. And I thought that was really clever, and I enjoyed that. And then, what did you guys think about the Phantom boss fight, where it ends up being the critic ends up being the Phantom, and you have to fight this theater critic. And what did you guys think of that boss fight?
This was the one where you had to get up onto the rafters and stuff?
Yeah, you had to get on the catwalk, and you had to light the candles and shine them on him. He's shooting the entire time. He's in, like, this chair that floats, and he's shooting, like, like he's shooting words from his pen that are like disgrace and like basically like he's shooting insults at you.
It's alright.
I like this boss battle.
Okay.
It was okay.
Okay.
It's very it's very video game boss battle. Do the thing 3 times. Spam DPS the boss.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay.
That's no shade. That's
I mean, you attack the boss and his life goes away, and then, you know, maybe he gets a new attack pattern, then you gotta do it over again, and maybe if you're lucky he goes down, but then, like, then you gotta do it again.
See, I didn't expect that much from the boss battles in this game, and I don't know if that's
What does that even mean? Like, you're saying,
this
like...
game isn't a... It's not a big technological leap.
Okay.
Why did you laugh at that, Dante? That's not meant to be.
Because I know what you're saying.
I mean,
that's code.
Yeah, it's not a huge technological leap. So I knew like each of these levels was going to be very contained, and it's not going to be a lot of sandboxing, and the way abilities have been used throughout this game, there might be one ability you need to use for each boss, but I'm sure you could get around it, but there's not a lot of experimentation that's necessary in order to beat the bosses.
So do you want a challenge for the boss in a game where the combat hasn't even done that in the main game? You're basically asking to not only be creative and fun, but also to challenge you and make the combat fun?
And that's why I'm saying, well...
Because it sounds like you want the game to do something that hasn't proven that it's done yet.
Exactly. I guess in that way you're kind of correcting me. Maybe technological isn't the right term. Maybe...
Quality?
Like, the boss levels fit the gameplay. Like, it's not asking you a lot. Like, the game itself isn't asking you a lot.
Yeah.
That's all he got.
Because, I mean, like, what it sounds like to me is you want to fight a Mega Man boss. Like, straight up, where you're like, not only do I want the combat to be fun in the main level, which I think we all can agree that's what we want, but we all, I think for the most part, agree that the game didn't hit on that. But then you're saying, well, the game wasn't like that, so these boss fights, I'm going to judge on that scale as well, and because they didn't hit on that, then, like, I'm not saying you can't enjoy the bosses, but it kind of just sounds like you weren't expecting anything from the bosses because the main game wasn't giving you anything, which... You can definitely have games where, like, the level was cool, but the boss sucked. So I'm saying this is the opposite, where, like, I think the level is creative. It may not be, like, challenging, but I do feel like the bosses are also creative, and they may not be challenging, but I'm like, awarding it points because it's clever. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not saying that, like, we're, like, hammering home the point that, like, the combat is whatever in this game. So, like, I think at this point we can just kind of say, like, that includes bosses. But it's
in that regard, yes, these boss levels are clever.
Mm-hmm.
Because they utilize the theme of each, contained story. And I honestly believe, like, with the technology... of this particular game, not necessarily the technology that was available at this time when they developed this game, but the technology that was utilized in this game, I think they did some amazing stuff with, the levels and the bosses.
I know, like, it's kind of hard to say this, but, like, I just don't think games were, like, doing this back then, Dante. Like, I know, like, you play...
No, we're not. No, I'm not gonna stand for that.
Dante, like, think if this game came out...
No. Okay, if we go back to 2003, 2004, and
this
we
game
go to,
came
like,
out in
that
2000... Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I thought so. If we go back to that era, to the PS2, Xbox, that era of platformers, you have stuff like Jak and Daxter. You have stuff like Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
You have Sly Cooper. If you compare any of those games, I went back and I'm like, am I being overly harsh on this game?
Dang, this man
And then
clapped
I
his hands
compared
at
to
everything.
I went back and compared the platforming. I didn't actually put the disc in, but
You're comparing it on a platform, though. Like, we already said, like, it's just in that genre, but we're saying the game as a whole.
But I'm saying those other games were creative and they had good platforming. So I don't think this game gets a pass for that. I mean,
they were creative, but I guess not in the same way, right? They were going for a different thing.
Like,
right?
Okay, check this out, Dante. This game came out in 2005. You know what else came out in 2005? Star Fox Assault. You know what else came out in 2005? The Xbox 360. And all those garbage-ass launch games. You know what else came out in 2005?
Hold on now. We're not
wait. This is not working. This is
We're not going to disc Cameo like that.
This
You
is
played
the point
Cameo?
more.
Yes, I have.
This came out the same time as Jungle Beat. And I'm not saying Jungle Beat is a bad game, but I'm just saying those are the games that came out. Those are the games that came out. This came out the same time as... I'm trying to see something else.
I'm just saying this came out later than Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and the gameplay is worse. I feel like the level design overall, I won't say creativity per se, but the level design itself is objectively worse. At least compared to Ratchet and Clank. Jak and Daxter, it's like a 50-50. But when you look at those aspects of those games, I would say even the writing. In fact, I'm going to definitely say the writing. I just don't think this game stacks up.
So are y'all looking at this game as more of an indie game compared to like Insomniac and Naughty Dog?
I'm not.
I'm not either. Like, I to me, we all agree that the game does not have great platforming or even existing platforming on most levels, and we agree that this game doesn't have good combat. But, like, that doesn't take away from the merits of what this game does have, and I'm, like, here celebrating that, and, like, I hear what you guys are saying, but I'm saying, like, this game, beyond that, it's still good. Like, and Dante saying it's barely a game, and it's like he's entitled to his own opinion, and I'm not saying he's wrong to feel the way he feels, but I'm saying that, like, I played some terrible-ass games in 2005. This game, Advent Rising came out in 2005, my guy. Like, we're not going to sit here, but we're not going to sit here and act like bad games didn't come out in 2005, and you're comparing it to the best of the genre. Of course it's not going to stand up to that. But if you compare it to, like, the other games that came out, like, the majority of the games that came out, then this game is, like, if not neck and neck with a lot of the mediocre or even average stuff, it's above that stuff. It may not be like Jak and Daxter level or Ratchet and Clank level, but it's better than majority of the stuff that came out then, in my opinion. And that's what I'm saying. Like, but I mean, but like I said, like we both agree that this game shouldn't be considered a platformer. It should be considered an action adventure game. But like I said, you're comparing it to the best of, like, you're comparing the games that had sequels. This game didn't even have a sequel. It didn't even sell that well. Why don't you compare it to games that also were platformers that didn't sell well, and then tell me that this game isn't better than them?
But now we're just lowering the bar, though. We're just saying
But I'm saying, like, the reason why those games,
as beloved as this game is, okay, you cannot act like this game does not have a massive cult following on the internet.
Correct.
People love this game. It has an 80. I checked it the other day. It has an 87 Metacritic, which makes me feel crazy because I'm like, how in the world did it get this high in the first place? So people do love this game, and people do consider it a good game. So you acting surprised at my negative opinion about this game, it kind of rubs me the wrong way because there are a lot of people that do consider it just as good as Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, all of those things. So that's why I'm here to say I do not think that's the case.
I mean,
Cuphead should be higher on the list. Dream Daddy should be number 9.
We talking about?
Sorry, I got in the Game of the Year. Sorry, my bad.
Uh,
Sorry, deliberating really hard over here, so I had to pull out my argument.
So yeah, I mean, like I don't know, like I think the reason we got on this tangent because Trevor was saying the boss was okay.
And you know what? I was gonna comment on the boss, but then I'm like, Trevor he's doing my job for me. He has the same opinion as me, I can tell, but he's being nice about it.
He's being diplomatic about it?
Yeah, he's being diplomatic about
Gotcha.
But let me, I don't want to close with this, but I just want to say this right now. I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Dude. Okay, I appreciate, like I said, not everybody has to like this game, but I'm just here just to say, like, I'd rather we have, like, this type of discussion than everybody's like, yo, this game's amazing. Not to say that it's not cool to have games that we all agree on, too, but I think it's more interesting when we have games where we're kind of split down the middle.
And to be fair, if we had a mass market, like, podcast, I'd assume that I'd be getting a lot of hate mail right now. Like, I'd be getting a ton, because I know how much people love this game. And honestly, I don't want to be negative about it, but I came in with middling to high, like, I don't want to say middling to high expectations, because I was telling Trevor before the podcast, I had played it like a year before for about 30, 45 minutes, and I wasn't really feeling it. But from everything I've heard on the internet up until playing through the game, I anticipated it being literally like
One
Jack
of the best.
and Daxter.
Sure.
Yeah, one of those level of platformers, just because everybody's like, oh my gosh, this game, I don't understand how you didn't play this game when it came out. I'm like, okay, well, people seem to at least, seem to really love this game. So I just assumed, like, it wouldn't have these huge flaws that we're all talking about.
If it was Jack and Daxter, there would have been a sequel.
It would have been on Jack 3 by then, I think.
I'm just saying though, like if it was as good as those other games, people would have bought it. And I'm not like, cause there's definitely games that went under the radar, and I'm not saying that there isn't, but I'm saying like this game, like it was relatively unknown. Like I'm looking at the list of games, and there's so many like sequels and just spin-offs and like all, like I have the list of games that came out in 2005 up right now, and just there's so many games that came out that has either a number attached at the end of it, which is still even commonplace now, or it's just like recognizable, like Judge Dredd or like freaking Star Wars or Mortal Kombat or like just these established franchises. So it's like I can understand why in 2005, like especially when this game came out, when everybody's getting hyped for the launch of like the Xbox 360, like I can understand why this game went under the radar.
Like, if I remember right, like, Majesco kind of just sent that game out to die because it came out at the same time as, like, Advent Rising. And I felt that, like, there was another game that was tied to, like, this big contest that they had for, like, if you found the golden disc, you won $1 million or something like that. But anyway, they sent all these games out, like, to die, basically. Like, they didn't really market it very well. I mean, there was, like, some advertisement for it on TV, if I remember right, like, on G4 back then, but, like, I mean, it seemed like, and also look at the time it came out, like you're saying, right? Like it just.
I mean, this game came out the same month Doom 3 came out, and I remember Doom 3 being a big deal when it came out, and
so, and even like as far as that, like back then, that was all about sequels. I mean, that was what people wanted, right? People wanted the same thing over and over and over and over. So it kind of, and it's a brand new IP.
That's why I hate doing what I'm doing right now, because, like, my big argument when I ever talk about video games to people is there needs to be less sequels and more just original ideas. And this is a very original idea. I just don't think the execution was where it needs to be. And I will also agree that, like, marketing-wise, I don't think this game had a super huge push. I do remember it being on, like, I think Adam Sessler really liked this game. So when you said G4, I think that's where I really heard about this game and kind of got the mentality that this was something to care about.
This game didn't even have like the game. The Windows version came out. I'm sorry, the Xbox version came out April 19th. Then a week later, the Windows version came out, and then a whole ass month. No, 2 months later, the PS2 version came out. And that's like a sign of the times too, where it was like, back when like you would see a review of a game and it's like, okay, well, how's the 360 or how's the Xbox version compared to the PlayStation 2 version? Because like all those games back then, like there was some that were ported over and they were like, the sound was worse or like the graphics were better.
Oh yeah.
So this was like right in the thick of when that stuff was still going on. And I'm not saying it to excuse it or whatever, like I kind of like it has like a flawed upbringing. It took 5 years for this game to be made, and they at a certain point like lost funding or didn't think the game was going to come out. And then it looked like it got pushed out. And I'm assuming like if they had their way, it wouldn't have got put out like the last year of the Xbox being a thing. I'm pretty sure like they would have preferred to been like 2003, 2004, or if anything, being able to put it out on 360. But it just so happened that's not how it happened. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with not liking this game, Dante. So I don't want you to think that I'm giving you slack for it. I was just more surprised or intrigued why you felt like the game overall, like you. And I know you played it a while ago too, but like how there's not a difference between the first half of the game and the second half, where I agreed with some of your criticism in the first half, and I disagree with some of you having that same beliefs or ideas about the second half.
I can respect that. I will say I probably almost zoned out towards the second half.
And yeah, and that's what it sounds like to me, where it's like you can't tell the difference in the writing between the first half and the second half. Were you paying attention would be my first question, like well, getting back into it, the boss, the critic, the Phantom.
Okay.
He was. I really liked the fight. This was like maybe one of my favorite fights because he was attacking you with insults, and it's really funny because when you beat him, like you're talking back to him, and I wrote this line down because like it's stupid, but it was hilarious to me because it made me think of Baby Blue, the Action Bronson song with Chance the Rapper. The whole Chance's verse where he's just saying like digs on somebody and it's just like super petty stuff. This dude says your knees are ugly and you snort when you laugh. And I died. And I don't know, like it just maybe it was because it was a critic and he was being super petty already, but it just was like it hit me at the right time and I was like, oh, that's funny. But that's it for the glorious stage. That was a pretty short one. Another one this was the first one I played, was the Waterloo stage, where you're actually in the mind of the warden, who's like, basically he's stuck and he's convinced, he's the ancestor, I guess you could say, of Napoleon Bonaparte. And, so you're playing on a large game board, think of like a strategy game. You're playing on that, and so you go into a room, and then you're the same size as everybody. And, the two players playing in the game, and then you can climb up a ladder onto the table, onto the board, and then once you get in there, then you shrink down, and you're like the same size as the people that would presumably live in the houses of this world. And this game kind of plays. I thought it was really cool. You're basically playing on a game board, and you can be this tiny size. You can be the same size as the game pieces, or you can be like your adult human, or your real life size. I really thought that was really interesting and really cool. The level itself was like what Dante said. It was fetch quest, where it was like, you need to build the have a carpenter to build, like, to repair the bridge. So then you go to the carpenter's house, and he's like, oh, well, I need you to get me some money. And so then you have to go, quote unquote, fetch him money. And then another one is like, oh, well, the knight he won't fight the castle unless you get him, he likes fancy food, so you got to get him a dinner of 10 snails and deliver it to the restaurant. And so, like, I thought this level was really clever. What did you guys think about the level?
I think it was clever too.
You can say bad stuff, I swear.
Okay, here's one annoying thing was you have to shrink down twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I get it for the part where you're moving the pieces, but I wish you didn't have to do it so much.
Going in and out.
Yeah, it made it less immersive and more fetch questy. I do wish they would have leaned in a little bit more on the strategy game part of it. I think there could have been a little bit more humor there, or at least opportunity for humor, like seeing how the pieces interacted with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed like, okay, you need to move this piece here and then move this one here next. There wasn't a whole lot of trial and error when it came to that part.
Gotcha.
So you were kind of hoping for more strategy behind it.
More
right?
strategy and just more flexibility, like in that part, like where you're actually like where the board game is the actual gameplay for this stage.
But
I was worried that it was going to be that. I was like, man, am I really going to have to like play an actual game of Risk, or is this kind of
You not a Risk fan?
No, not at all.
I love Risk.
So I mean, I liked it. I mean, I kind of do agree it was a little annoying having to, basically go in and out of the board game because you had to go out to go grab one thing, then go back in, then shrink down, then go big again. So it kind of got a little tiresome doing that, but I appreciated how unique it was because I can't think of another game that's done a concept like that.
What about you, Dante?
I like the concept.
My man.
Like, out of all of the back half parts, this was, I was about to say probably my favorite, but I don't.
That's too strong of a word.
Like, I don't want to say something I can't take back later.
It brought the most the most thing that you could call a smile across your face.
Something like that. It started off stronger than I expected, and then it kind of dragged on a little bit longer than I cared for.
Yeah.
Like, finding the different houses was fine, but then when you had to figure out what lined up with what, because every piece had a very specific, like, action that you had to take to get it, and also another action you had to take out another countering piece, so kind of finding out what actually interacted with what was a little annoying in my opinion. And that goes back to what Trevor was saying about having to like get big and then get shrunk constantly.
I feel that. I kind of echo what Trevor said. I dug the level, but I do also agree that it was a little bit annoying to have to constantly shrink then get big, shrink then get big, or whatever you had to do. I did like that they added a lot of. I think this was the most amount of platforming that you had to do in a level. It seemed like, if that really means anything, just going into some of the levels. Like this is maybe stuff that you guys didn't even have to see, but like trying to get some of the figments and things like that required you to, if you went into a building, having to do the little sidle across the wall or walk this tightrope to get to this other thing, and there was a little bit of that going on. I overall I did like the concept of the level. I thought it was pretty pretty nifty. And then, you guys ready for the best level in the game? My favorite level, I should say.
Dude, this level right here.
Yeah,
I can't tell if he's being.
I'm being 100%.
Okay. I had to ask.
The Black Velvet Topia, the bullfight, the bull level. Do you remember that, Dante? It was like an entirely different art style. Like your character had a costume when he was in the level, and it was like super. And maybe I'm a little biased because I was in Mexico, not even like a week and a half or a week after I played this level, but like it was mad cool to like be in this environment, and like it was really. I thought it was really clever. They had like these dogs that were painters in the world, and if you talk to them, you find out that they're that famous painting of those 4 dogs playing poker. That's who they are.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that.
Because the whole level is like he's trying to build this card house. This guy is he's like this tragic figure where his like love of his life basically was stolen from him by his rival, this bullfighter.
Okay, this was pretty funny. We haven't hit the punchline, but I will say that was pretty good.
Yeah, and so like he's trying to build this card house to get up to the cloud that his woman is on with her nube, and he doesn't have enough cards, so you have to go into this world and get cards for him. And then the way you get cards, you have to get 4 queens, and these queens are. In order to unlock these queens, you have to fight these sub-bosses, and these sub-bosses, because you're in a Mexico-adjacent type environment, are these luchador boss fights that you have to fight, and these 4 luchadors are themed after animals. So there's a tiger, there's an eagle, there's a cobra, and I forgot the other one. But they each have different, like they're luchadors, you fight them in a ring, and they each have different abilities, so there's a different ability and way you have to fight them. And I felt like this was when the game hit his strongest as far as quote-unquote combat went, because you literally are fighting the same opponent as far as like how they outwardly look, like the body shape, but there's a different way you take each of them down. And once you figure that out, yes, the fight is simple, but I thought it was a really clever way of like introducing the same enemy, but you had to use like your logic in order to beat them.
Okay, so maybe it was just me. I felt like it was just like you just cheesed them all the same way. You just hit them one time, then dodge, and eventually after they get hit 3 times, they all do some weird attack, but it's just the same thing of like you hit them and dodge. Except for the last one.
If that's what you're saying, like at that point you're just talking about like a normal video game fight, then, right? That's like every video game.
I kind of feel the same way as Greg on that. Like,
okay, that's cool.
I didn't see a huge difference between the first 3,
but the last one,
the last one you had to use the confusion grenades.
Like they all had different attacks, but you know the strategy was kind of the same.
Okay.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I thoroughly enjoyed this level.
I mean that's just one aspect of this level. Like the other cool aspect of it was like you're in this city and this bull is ravaging through the city, and like he's basically like every time you get hit by him, you get brought to this point. So it's like you're actively quote unquote platforming or traversing through this level, and you're also like trying to avoid getting struck by this bull and getting brought back to the start of the level or a specific section of the level. And I thought that was pretty interesting. It's just a different change of pace. That's not something that they had done in this game at this point yet. So
I even enjoyed that part of the game, the platforming, like running across like the rooftops and through windows and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I like the little swinging through the alleyways.
Yeah. And
when the bull ran through, the banners went against the wall, so you had to time it to when he wasn't running through the town.
I'm surprised nobody mentioned the thing where you had to buy the paintings and you could put them on the wall, and then it would transform it based off whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So you bought a picture of a guitar that turned into
like something you could climb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, man, I dug this level a lot.
And the best part of this level, the costume change.
Right? Actually, that's not even the best part of the level. The best part of the level was like the twist at the end, the reveal. What you think, Dante?
I don't have much to say about this level. Like, I remember buying the paintings. The bull was a little annoying, but after you got past him, like, well, you don't even get past him because he's just on a loop or whatever.
Yeah.
So
once you figure it out.
Yeah, once you figure it out, it's fine. It was decent going through, like, the little, like, catwalks and, you know, windows and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting. But the boss was cool. The final boss, quote unquote, not the little mini bosses.
Gotcha. So, you end up finding out in the level that, because you get into this this sewer, and you're in this sewer, and you end up being in like a high school, and it's like, why am I in this high school, these locker rooms? Like, I went from being in Mexico to being in this high school. Like, what's going on? And you find out that the guy, your homie, I don't remember his name, Eduardo, maybe? The guy's
right.
mind that you're in, the story that he had in his Edgar, that's his name, Edgar. The story he had in his head of his tragic, like story of his girl being taken was not as tragic as it sounded. He basically was a football player or wrestler, one of the two, and his girlfriend or whatever was, I'm not even sure if she's his girlfriend or like just this girl he was really into. She was a cheerleader, and she ended up, instead of going with him, she went with this other guy who in his mind is a bullfighter, but in reality is also a cheerleader. And so I thought it was really interesting that you find this out in the sewer, aka this high school. It's like a super repressed memory where, like, I thought that was pretty poignant, and I thought that was really interesting. And then it's once you find that out, you're like, oh, well, like, this bull is not actually, the bull is him, and he's like basically his own roadblock from getting over this experience that happened in his life. And so the boss fight, once you collect these 4 cards and you build the card house to get up to his lady, is you have to fight the bullfighter. Well, actually, that's where it's revealed. Like you have to fight the bull, and you're attacking the bull, and you realize after you've damaged it enough, which you do it the super like traditional way of spearing the bull in the back, is this is actually Edgar, and I'm hurting him. And then the bullfighter comes, and he's getting roses and these things thrown at him as he's trying to damage the bull and hurt the bull. And you're like, oh, wait, no, that's Edgar. I need to help Edgar. We need to attack this guy. So you end up using the confusion grenades that you got in order to confuse the guy into thinking he's the bull. And then he rushes at, and you have to poke him with the spears and everything. And this was my favorite fight. Like, what about you guys? How did you guys feel about it? Anybody? Everybody?
I'm trying to remember exactly. I didn't have any issues with this fight.
I like the twist. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Come on, Greg. You got something to say.
I mean, not really. I mean, I thought it was cool. I mean, I don't think it was my favorite, but yeah, I mean, I didn't have any like big gripes about it. I guess I didn't feel one way about it or another.
I remember the writing being good.
Like the area, like that level in general, I liked. It's just the boss fight doesn't stick out to me as anything like, spectacular or bad.
Okay. Bummer.
I did. I don't know if I like the those confusion bombs though.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
also
thing.
remember that.
I think they kind of suck as far as targeting because there's not really a good lock on for it. I guess. Well, I mean, whatever. That's more of a mechanics thing. So no point in me like complaining about that.
Are they
I guess,
supposed to? Like when I first got them, I didn't know if you were supposed to throw them directly at the enemy or throw them near the enemy and they explode and then the enemy walks into them into like the cloud.
It's a little bit of both. If it explodes on them, that's good. But like him specifically, it was a lot easier for me to like have him around the cloud than to try to hit him with it directly.
Yeah, it took a little bit of trial and error with that last luchador that you have to fight, because that was kind of how I figured out how to use those. But that may have been my only complaint. Other than that, it was well, I was going to say it was a straightforward fight, but you know that twist kind of changes things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was.
What was the resolution of that fight? Because I kind of remember that being a little funny as well.
So I remember what I wrote down. So his rival is Herman, and so the girl's name is Lana, and basically when she kills or when you are, I think, kill Herman or whatever, he's dying, and Lana cheers, and she's like, "It's all right, it's okay. I always loved you anyway," because she's the cheerleader, and I was like,
I remember that now. Man, I was so confused at that part. I'm like, dang, is she really kneeling down here on this man's deathbed and does this cheer?
Yeah, so I thought it was funny. Yeah, that was also another part where I was just started cracking up because I was like, oh, I can't believe they did that. That's funny. But yeah, after completing Olivia's, I can't remember the French guy. Olivia, Edgar, and Fred. I think Fred. You get the parts you need to get into the tower, or because at this point you're heading up to Dr. Robato's lab, which we haven't really talked about the overall story, but there's this guy, Dr. Lobato, who's a dentist, but he's been stealing all the campers' brains. He's been working with Coach Oleander, who plot twist Coach Oleander is a villain, and he basically has been stealing. Him and Dr. Lobato have been scheming together to steal everybody's brain. So you're on this lookout. You're basically on the trying to get everybody's brains back and take down this guy. And you are basically at this point. This is the platforming part of this entire game. So like we've been talking about, like, oh, there's no platforming or anything, which is not a lie. But this is where I feel like the platforming is the most apparent. You're basically climbing, or you're walking through this insane asylum environment to get up this tower, and you're kind of following like this creepy character. You're following her, and she's like leading you, but not necessarily leading you. And you do a lot of platforming. Is this stuff fun for you guys, the platforming, at this point? Because I'll just be up front. I like that there was platforming, but this is the part where I was like, oh, like this is like, it's kind of hard to do it in this game. Like it's not really easy to do it in this game. This game isn't built for this, almost.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like it was designed for the task they were having you do.
Yeah.
And I feel like this gets exacerbated in some of the subsequent areas.
Yeah.
Totally. And maybe it's one of those things. It was like, I'm trying to look at it through the lens of the time. Maybe it's just they didn't have enough time back then to polish it up to the level of like, some of the other like AAA platformers. But yeah, I mean it definitely kind of shows at the end, kind of in that level in particular.
Yeah. What about you, Trevor? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. It doesn't do what a lot of, well, I'm not going to say modern platforms, but even platforms at that time, where you can obviously tell which direction you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to jump on, and this game just didn't do it enough.
I didn't feel like I had any issue like knowing where I need to go. It was mostly like getting there effectively.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and I'm not saying to an extent to where like Mirror's Edge,
you're not going to get lost. Yeah,
I'm just saying like, oh, I'm supposed to jump on that platform, but it's kind of curved. The landscape doesn't look like I'm supposed to traverse that area. It looks like something that's out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But you actually are supposed to go up there, and I don't know, it just doesn't. It maybe, I don't know, when you play a lot of video games, you get used to, being able to look at a wall and be like, oh, that wall is cracked. Let me place a bomb in front of it.
There are context clues.
Yeah.
This game I don't want to say this game, but there are certain areas of this game where you can't tell. It's almost like there's placeholder art and they just never updated it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, the level is small enough for you to eventually figure out where you're supposed to go. It's not like you're wandering around lost. It's just kind of like it doesn't create this sense that everything is very fluid. Like where you just, okay, I can move from here to here, or I can, try to stay on top of my my levitation ball throughout this part and move fluidly throughout the levels. It's kind of like bump into a wall, okay, reorient myself, and find the next ledge to grab onto.
Okay.
And that may have been the way they designed it, but it's, playing it now just goes against what a lot of modern games are doing.
Sure. And then, at this point you get into the Dr. Robato's lab, and you get the autosave, which is basically the point of no return. And from then on, you meet the character you've been following. Her name is Shigor, I think, which is a play on Igor, the famous assistant to Dr. Frankenstein. And you fight a couple of different. I'm trying to think. So she has basically he's blackmailing her. Shigor to help him by threatening to kill her pet turtle, Mr. Pokelope, and you end up helping Mr. Pokelope escape. And Mr. Pokelope is a smart, intelligent being. And
wait. Maybe this game is more nuanced than I'm giving it credit. Is Pokelope a take on the turtle being a slowpoke and her wanting to elope the turtle?
Oh boy.
Did you really interrupt me to say that?
I'm just saying, hey man, you're the one going into the nuanced stuff with this game. The writing might have been, I don't know.
You got the nail on the head right there. Yeah. But you end up basically with the help of Mr. Pokelope, you kill Dr. Lobato. You fight him, and I think he has the. Mr. Pokelope takes the tank and kills him, and then I think I'm trying to think. He gets out of the tank, and then Coach Oleander gets in, and you have to fight Coach Oleander in the tank, and he's like blown away slash, what do they call it? Incapacitated everybody else that's around you, so it's just you by yourself, and you have to fight him in this. They call it the Psychoblaster Death Tank, and this is a pretty. What do you guys think about the fight? Where you have the outer rings that he flings at you, and then you have the inner walls that block him. And what do you guys think about that fight?
This is probably my favorite boss fight of the game.
Okay, how come?
It's just, I mean,
There's a challenge.
There's literally layers to it.
The
layers.
But I don't know. It's just like it requires you to use specific abilities, and using those abilities doesn't seem inhibiting. But yeah, I like this boss level.
Okay. What about you, Dante? How'd you feel about this level?
I'm trying to think
This
about
boss fight, I should say.
I'm trying to think about all of the things the boss did in specific. Because this is the one where you have your kind of Persona-esque, like, giant...
No. You're still like your normal size. There's basically the tank is in the middle of the stage and like on like almost like a platform, and there's a rotating like concrete blocks around the outer ring, and then there's an inner ring that is like concrete walls, and basically you have to like pick up blocks to pick up his blocks and throw them at the wall to break the wall, and then you have to throw a block at the tank when it's exposed.
Well, you also have to set the use pyrokinesis to set the wooden planks on fire too.
Yeah.
I just don't have any recollection of this one.
You heard it here first, Trevor. Not memorable.
I mean, if we're being honest, I'm still stuck on Pokelope because I really think I'm onto something with that.
I think my favorite part of the whole Pokelip thing was just hearing his voice.
Yeah, wasn't it really sexual?
It was pretty good.
Prove me wrong.
I'll wait.
Honestly, though, he kind of sounded like a pimp.
A little bit. He called himself Daddy too. Pretty good.
Elope.
Y'all are stupid. Alright, well...
Didn't he make a dick reference?
I
think he did.
I really do.
I can't remember like
the more I think about it, he was really creeping on that girl. I remember this. This is something that happened.
Never forget the dick references. Well, what do you think about do you remember that same fight, Greg? Did you like it?
I don't know if I particularly liked it. Like, the only other boss fight I really care for is like maybe the last few boss fights.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, I didn't find it like incredibly difficult either, so at least I appreciated it for that. But it was okay.
Okay. Glowing endorsement. It's
It
alright.
wasn't hard, so I could get past it faster.
It's alright.
Basically.
Well, after you fight the tank, you get zapped by, or you get hit by, what is the thing you get hit by? The sneezing powder. And that's what they were using to get people to sneeze, and then their brains leave their heads or whatever. They go out their nose. And so you get hit with once you defeat the tank, you get hit with some sneezing powder as a last effort by Coach Oleander. And you sneeze your brain out. And at that point, you are controlling your brain, and you got to get into the death tank as well. And once you get into the death tank, then your brain is merged with Coach Oleander's, and you guys are in the mind of the both of you. So it's like both of your psyche together, and this comes in the form of the meat circus, because your backstory is your Raz character was raised in a circus. Him and his dad were performers, and his dad ended up sending him away, or he ran away. He escaped the circus because his dad didn't approve of his psychic abilities. And the meat aspect was Coach Oleander. He grew up. His dad was a abusive, it seems, father, but he was a butcher as well. And Coach Oleander he really liked bunnies. He had a pet bunny, and his dad, I guess one day he killed all his bunnies. So you're in a meat butcher themed circus, and this is Dante maybe can attest to, but this is like historically known as a, I guess, bad level, or it's an infamous level among the diehards of this game. It's like, yeah, we like this game, but not that level. It's like, I hear a lot of people that are fans of this game that say like, oh yeah, like the game is great. It's just, except for that level, it kind of sucks. So, what do you guys think of the meat circus level?
I was fine with it up until like the flooding part. When it starts to flood, I had to go to YouTube.
Was it because the platforming was too hard?
You could call it hard. Oh, when you're on that rope and you're like shimmying sideways, and you have to make this really like weird linear jump. I don't understand what they were thinking. I really don't.
Yeah, I got to one part, like specifically that part you're talking about, and I just ate the fire damage. Cause
you're talking about when he throws the flaming stuff at you?
When you're climbing the ropes.
There's like a rope that's going...
Like you're scaling
It's doing one of those spherical type of things. Are we talking about the same part?
I believe so.
Yeah. And it's flooding also, right?
Yeah. And you have to jump across to the next rope. It's like a curved like wall.
And there's flames on like the rope that you're trying to climb.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. You're climbing up it's like nets that you're kind of climbing on, I guess. Or
and
whatever,
there's just
right?
no good way to jump from one like net to the next.
And avoid the fire.
Yeah, you kind of have to like double jump and float a little bit, but you have to
jump towards the camera.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think I ended up cheesing that part by jumping on top of the little like net thing, if that makes sense.
I didn't know you could do that.
It's not great because you can't really go that fast since it's super, super linear.
Is it turning too, so it makes it hard, or?
Yeah, I think I ended up getting on the ball and jumping and floating and just trying to land as best as I could, like a little bit higher than I was before. It wasn't pleasant. That part legitimately, I thought I wasn't going to finish the game.
Gotcha. See, the part for me that I didn't really care for was the escort, I guess you could say, where you're with the young Oleander, and it's pretty early on where he basically, his dad or whatever, like, is feeding bunnies into the meat grinder is creating these weird, like, freaky looking rabbits, or like characters that attack him, and you have to like basically keep him from taking damage. And every time you let him catch his rabbit, he goes to the next part, and it's like I constantly found myself like him taking a bunch of damage on my way to get to him, because I have to like reorient myself and figure out how to get to him. So like there was a couple times where he was damn near dead, and that part, and then also for some reason I had a lot of difficulty at the on rails part where I was missing those jumps, It was like
Yes.
not being responsive for whatever reason, and I was missing a lot of way more jumps than I'm like. I have no idea why.
It wasn't just you.
Okay,
Guys
yeah,
have the
it
same
was
issue.
grating. I was like, what am I doing wrong?
And yeah, God forbid you miss a jump while you're doing that escort
You
mission.
gotta, yeah.
Yeah, because you fall all the way down.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically you're gonna have to start. Yeah, start over.
And there's no good way to start over either. You just kind of have to wait for him to die.
Mm. I like the there was another thing too. Yeah, it was like every single part there was something that I didn't like on this level. I didn't like like what you guys were saying too, the platforming that you had to show his dad how acrobatic you were or whatever, because his dad was a trapeze artist, and that wasn't really fun either. But once you get to the bosses, it was fine then. Like I didn't really enjoy like these. In my opinion, were the besides the very first boss, these were like on the weaker side as far as like I didn't really care for these bosses as much. But like though the bosses themselves were a lot more fun to fight than the level.
Yeah, the bosses weren't that bad at this part.
And it was like I think you fought like it was kind of interesting. I guess you could say you fought like a couple different forms of the dad, the butcher. So Ole Ender's dad, and so he had these big cleavers, and he was huge, and he would basically attack you with the cleavers. So you had to like withstand his assault, and then hop on his cleaver when it got stuck on the ground, and run up his arm and hit him in the face. And that was pretty much the gist of that fight. And then and then you fight him again, and this time he's like, actually no, because I think this whole time too, your dad is like taunting you or whatever, and I think you end up fighting him.
Don't you do like a tag team against them?
Well,
or something?
yeah, like you
Yeah.
fight the butcher twice though, because you fight or three times, because you no twice, because you fight him the first time when he's normal, then the second time you fight him when he's on fire, and you have to throw those spike pins that your dad juggles at his leg to make him fall,
Yep.
and then you get a reunion between you and your real dad, who is like he's a psychic, and he like teleports into your mind and sees
Don't
this
you
going.
hate your dad throughout
The
most
entire
of the game?
game you hate your dad. And then your real dad pops up and he's like, wow, this is what you think of me? Because he sees the fake dad that's been hating on you and yelling all this like bad stuff at you. And yeah, you fight a like amalgamation of your fake dad and the butcher, and it's this really weird like creature, really gross looking, and your dad gives you this special ability that turns you giant, and like he has to charge it up. So like it's just like you basically have to run away from this creature that's chasing after you, and then once you get the bar and your bar goes up high enough, then you can like become big, and then you can just wreck. You can just unload on the creature that's been chasing you, and you just punch it and just body it, and you just do that 2 or 3 times, and like you just beat it up, and I don't know, like it was really satisfying for whatever reason. It wasn't particularly hard. It was just like kind of just mashing the attack button, but it was really satisfying to do. Did you guys think of the final boss?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I kind of appreciated just that world in general and how they set up the bosses more than anything. I don't think like the mechanics of fighting them was well. I guess it was okay. The first time you fight the butcher, I thought it was kind of cool how you had to dodge his attacks to do that. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I guess it was probably one of my I guess one of the boss fights I liked the most.
Okay. What about you, Trevor Dante?
Yeah, I liked it.
I thought it was pretty neat having the little persona giant form of myself. That was kind of cool.
I thought it was cool. Actually, this was like it was like a whatever. Actually, for me, boss fight. Like it was just kind of like it's cool that I have this ability, but like this was kind of whatever. I didn't need to have it, but I guess it was cool that this happened or whatever.
I do have one question though, and it's story based, and I think we've gotten to the part where
Okay.
it was discussed. But the whole reason why Raz is afraid of water is because his family drowned.
There's like I think they said there was a curse or something, and so his family, dating back from like his grandfather's time, I think was cursed that his family was gonna like have this fear of water, and I think that's what it's in reference to. So like when that water was pooling up or whatever, it was a reference to that.
Because I thought at some point it said that Raz died in water too. Or maybe they said after, listening to you, maybe they said he was going to die in water or something.
Or I thought his dad, didn't he think he drowned? Or
I mean, from the entire story, you're led to believe that his dad is this awful dude and hates him. And I thought, like, that was one of my, like, favorite parts of the game, because, like, the entire game, you think that, you believe what Raz says. He's like, yeah, like, I ran away from home. My dad, he hated psychics. He found out I was a psychic, and, like, I had to run away because he hated psychics. And then you meet his dad, and his dad's like
psychic.
why do you feel this way about me? I'm a psychic. Like, I would never, like, dislike you for how you are and everything. And I really liked it because kids are so unreliable. They tell stories. And so, like, this entire time, you think he has this tragic backstory, and it ends up being a lie. And it made me think, like, is Oleander, like, I mean, he's an adult now, but, like, is his backstory, like, just this lie, this long, drawn-out lie that actually didn't actually happen, or didn't happen how we remembered it? We never know. But it's just, I thought it was really cool how they, like, here we are, you're this entire game, you're solving other characters' issues, especially in the psych ward. You're solving these characters' hang-ups to help them get better, and you don't get better until you have this face-to-face with your dad. And then when you find out, oh, like, my dad is fine, and, like, you get out of this world, you get out of this world, and then it changes you for the better. So, I don't know, I really dug how they played with that all tied together to what they were doing within the game the entire time. Well,
and then the
you
epilogue.
guys got anything else? Yeah, and then the epilogue, which is basically this spaceship comes down, and it's like, Lily, your love interest in this game, her dad is like a head psychonaut or whatever, and he's been kidnapped. And so Sasha and Agent Crueler, and I forgot the woman's name. I feel bad about that. Mia, yeah. They're like, yo, we need your help. You're one of us, Raz, and we need your help. He's like super honored to be a part of the team. And they're like, yeah, we got to save Lily's dad. And Lily hops in with you guys, and you guys get in the spaceship and are off. And that's like, you're off on a new adventure. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, damn, like, it would have been... I'm looking forward to Psychonauts 2. That's all I'm going to say. I'll just leave it at that. I hope the game picks up where you leave off. I don't assume that it will. Or if anything, you might play that mission and then some time will like have happened after that. But I think that would be really cool to play that in a second game. I would prefer to do that. So hopefully Psychonauts 2 has that, because that will be fun to me.
Did you watch the trailer for Psychonauts 2?
I meant to. I did not, though. Maybe I'm not a real fan. Who can say? Should I watch it? How about that? You'll let me know.
I think you should.
Okay.
It's like, well, this actually looks like it might be something.
Uh-oh. Dante's thinking about playing. You know it's gotta be good.
I didn't go that far.
Oh,
I was just happy for the people that it was for.
gotcha.
So I just started up the trailer, and the first logo it shows is Starbreeze Studios.
Who's that?
Rip.
I'm sure somebody will pick it up.
Hopefully.
I hope these are in-game.
Oh, are we talking about
graphics.
Starbreeze or?
Oh,
You any I guess closing thoughts for Psychonauts? I'll start with you. I'll start with you, Trevor.
This game has redeeming qualities.
Such as
is Psychonauts a Trump supporter?
So my
Chill.
hopes, like starting out in this game, my hopes for this game were really low. Like with the first couple of levels being at the campsite. In the second half, once you break away from all that and you start delving into these people's subconscious and like, you know, getting into their backstory a little bit more, like that's the part of the game that I like. At least as far as story. Like the gameplay, yeah, it's kind of the same throughout the game. It doesn't change up much except for a couple of places thematically. But other than that, you know, I think this game redeems itself in story and dialogue, and yeah, so it's pretty cool. I'm glad I played it.
Are you looking forward to a? Would you be down to play a sequel?
I'd try it out based on the graphics, and you know, this trailer looks kind of heartfelt.
You'd play it when it's on sale, though, right?
Oh yeah, I can't remember when I got this game. I must have gotten it from Humble Bundle or something, but yeah, I don't remember purchasing this game with the intent that, oh yeah, I really want to play this game. So if I do play Psychonauts 2, it'll probably be within that same vein. Like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not gonna watch the movie in theaters, but I'll check it out once it's at Redbox.
Gotcha. What about you, Greg? How do you feel about this game?
It's definitely a flawed game that, despite some of the flaws, still kind of holds my attention just because of the characters and the kind of some of the unique ways that they figure out to I'm trying to figure out the way I want to word it. Kind of the unique ways that they create worlds and how you navigate in them. Oh man, I'm lost now. I guess that's like probably the main thing that I would say about it.
Okay. What about you, Dante? Oh, actually, Greg, would you play a sequel?
I think so. I mean, because I'm already invested in it since I finished it, which I'm kind of glad. As this is like the third time I've played the game, so I'm glad I finally could say I finished it. But yeah, I'm kind of interested, and I hope that they actually, you know, the sequel comes out. Trying to see how they, you know, how it plays in a modern, you know, in a modern environment, right? You know, maybe they can make it a little bit more tight as far as the gameplay, so then you have a good playing game with like really interesting characters and like, you know, really unique environments.
Gotcha. What about you, Dante? How do you ultimately feel about this game? I know how you do, but just go ahead and lay it out.
You know, I really thought about it while they were talking, and if I had to just distill my thoughts into like one notion, I think me and the developers of this game just have fundamental differences.
Mm-hmm.
Where I get what they were going for. I really do. I like the concept of this game. I really do. There is something to be salvaged here. There is just so many design decisions that I fundamentally disagree with, and priorities that I believe are out of place that just made this game impossible for me to enjoy.
So what you're saying is a sequel can't fail.
It could be more of the same.
They could double down on what they have here.
I see what you did there.
Double down isn't even the same as double fine. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah.
He tried it.
You know what? I have hopes for the sequel. I'm just very concerned for the fans of the series. Because if they really try to recreate... I don't think they'll try to recreate this game. I think it will be a better playing game. But if they did try to recreate this game, I think a lot of people who really loved this game back in the day will be sorely disappointed.
I agree with that. And I mean, I would feel that way about... I mean, just going back to our first episode, I feel the same way about Beyond Good and Evil. If they recreated that game, just, I also think people would be disappointed, especially after the wait. Well, for me, I really, 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 really enjoyed this game. I thought it was one of the most creative, interesting games I've played. I'm a really big fan of Double Fine, and I can see how this game laid the groundwork for what they would eventually would do with their other games, where they take like this really one-off or crazy concept, and then they apply their writing style and their like I feel like every game I've ever played of theirs has been like fundamentally flawed gameplay wise. There's some type of gameplay like hitch or thing that just isn't quite what you want it to be, but I always felt like their worlds that they build and their characters and their writing have always been the things that I go to their games for, and like being able to see the game that basically that started them has been really, really cool. And I'm super glad that after all these years I finally was able to play this, and I didn't go in with high expectations because of what Dante had said, but I was super glad that I was able to receive I picked up what they were putting down with this game. So, I am going to probably watch this. I'm going to definitely watch this trailer here in the next couple minutes and just check that out. But I definitely am even more so than I was with Beyond Good and Evil. I'm definitely in on a sequel for this game. So
I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man. I mean, yeah. So, I guess do we have any closing thoughts for Beyond Good and Evil? I think we've said a lot. This was like one of our...
Beyond Good and Evil?
You say Beyond Good and Evil?
Oh my god, I did, huh?
I got some more thoughts for Beyond Good and Evil.
For Psychonauts, you guys got any more thoughts for Psychonauts?
No.
This was back to our 07 days, our 17 days, and 18, back when we were, super long episodes. But I guess, Dante, do you feel any type of way about this being your last episode, and maybe you want to play some Grim Fandango or some Celeste and Hellblade and perhaps some Killer 7, another stellar 2005 release? We'll see.
I will say that I hate leaving on such a negative note. I legitimately felt bad because I came into this today being like, no matter what, I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm not going to say anything bad if I can help it. But then you kept asking me questions.
That's my job, man. Aren't you going to miss this?
Hey, you do a good job at your job, man. I can't fault you. Oh, man. Thank you for taking all of those punches.
Oh, no problem, man. This is how we are, This is how we are when we talk about games. We've always been this way. Really about anything, let's be honest.
Fair.
All right, well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I might pop up, here and there in the future for you guys.
That sounds good. That sounds good. And where can people find you at? Let's start with you, Greg.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Boombox Hero. Facebook is the same, Boombox Hero. And on Twitch at twitch.tv/xdrdmagnegrox.
I went to you without checking to see if we got any emails, but I know we don't. And if we did, they're going to have to hold that because this is more important. we don't read no emails on Dante's last episode. Where can people find you at, Trevor?
You can find me on most social media platforms at Lyric Unsung. Also on Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Twitch, Mixer, all that good stuff.
Alright, you guys can find me on Twitter at Potato Salad. And yeah, I don't really post that much on Twitter, but I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna try to post a little some. We have, let's see, our upcoming schedule for next month. We're playing Grim Fandango, as I said earlier. And then for the month of May, we will be playing Hellblade: Sinuous Sacrifice and Celeste. And then for the month of I just drew a blank. For the month of May, we'll be playing Killer 7. So those will be our next couple games, and we also have a bonus episode in the works. I'm not going to reveal the game, but me and Trevor will be on that, and hopefully we'll get something recorded possibly next week and maybe uploaded next week. So be on the lookout for that as well. It will be a doozy, I feel like. That's going to be an interesting game to talk about. It's a game that's shown up on my list a couple times, the game I've wanted to play for a little bit, and we decided, hey, let's just, instead of the whole crew doing it, let's just play it, just a couple of us. And so me and Trevor picked up the mantle to do that. So looking forward to that. So
I'm not going to reveal the game, but how far are both of you into that?
Well, Trevor?
Maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours into it.
Okay. I probably played maybe 30 or 45 minutes of it, and I was playing it at night, and it was raining here, and we had a power surge, so I lost maybe like 20, let's see, I think I saved about 5 minutes in, so I lost maybe about 25 to 35 minutes of gameplay, so I'm back on day one, basically. So, yeah.
Huh.
I got to see a little bit of what the game had to offer, got to make a choice, and was going along with that choice, and the power went out, and I ended up hitting Trevor up and seeing, like, what choice did he make? And it sounded like we had made the same choice, and it wasn't my number one choice, it just ended up being that way, so maybe I'm going to try to see if I can sway the game to give me a different choice, so that way we have two different stories going on.
I'm very curious how this turns out, because I've played through the game they're talking about, and yeah, it'll be interesting to hear them talk about it nonetheless.
Okay, well, be on the lookout for that. Like I said, we'll try to, ideally, I've been pretty busy lately, but I will try to knock out what I need to knock out, so that way I can play this game and we can record an episode this next week. But be on the lookout for that. And then, just as a random 2019 goal of mine, I would like to record more bonus casts. So we will try to, maybe every month or every other month, try to... My goal is to do 5 this year. We did 2 last year. So my goal is
3.
to... We did?
I thought it was just
Mega Man and Firewatch.
Wasn't there one more?
It was supposed to be another game, but it never happened with you and Trevor.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was supposed to be, No Way Out or whatever.
A Way Out.
A Way Out, there you go.
Yeah. So we did 2 last year, so I'm trying to double in some change. But obviously, like, if we can do more than... I want to do 5, if we can do more than 5, that'd be great too, so... Yeah, be on the lookout for those. That's the goal, and keep us to it. Keep us to it. Let us know if we're not putting them out soon. Soon enough. But I guess you got anything? Any closing thoughts, Dante? I'll let you take the show out.
Well, man, closing thoughts. It was a pleasure working with you all. It was fun playing video games. I'm very interested to see how the show evolves. And to the audience, thank you for, supporting us. And you should probably write in some emails if you have a chance.
Definitely. Or some questions. We didn't even have our question for today, which is fine, but we're not going to have questions no more, it seems like.
But now that Dante isn't on the cast, he could send in questions and emails.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be kind of dope. I'm for this.
It's just going to be his questions that he would normally ask on the episode. Just
Pokalope@gmail.com.
Alright, well, is that it? Yeah, alright. You do the honors, Dante?
No, that's your tradition, man.
I'm letting you, I'm seeding, I'm letting you do this, if you want to.
No, I'm gonna mess it up.
Okay. We're Miss Checkpoints, and we're out. Peace.